By the way, you know whose birthday it is today?
No, I don't.
Dan Winans, David Campbell, Mike Bond, Ross Cubbin, Jeff Altieri.
Who were they?
Are those your Facebook friends?
This is the Fantasy Focus Baseball Podcast. Here are your hosts, Tristan Cockcroft and Eric Karabell.
Hi there, and welcome to Fantasy Focus Baseball. It's Wednesday, July 9th, 2014. I am Eric Karabell, and with me is my old pal from the Old Baseball Today podcast. It's Mark Simon from ESPN Stats and Info. Mark, how you doing? And thanks for joining us today.
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. I'm psyched to do 45 minutes with you, and let's get it rolling.
We're going to talk about your...
Get it right. It's not 45. It's 44.
Sure.
Do you watch 24, Mark?
Never.
Yeah, see, me neither. Never.
I don't either.
Baseball. I mean, don't you watch baseball on Monday nights?
I watch baseball, yes. On Monday nights, yes.
On every night. So you'd be a good fit for the show. Mark has lots to discuss today, and so let's just get right to it.
Simon says... Simon says...
I like what you did there. You combined two.
Wow.
Good job. See?
Thank you. Not the best in business for nothing.
He's creative at times.
So can I tell you how I won my league of my week last week?
Absolutely. Sure.
This is kind of funny. I don't play in 12 leagues, so these sorts of things don't necessarily happen to me. I've played in one, and I've played in one consistently for a couple of years now. But anyway, me and my opponent in this head-to-head points league were tied going into the Sunday night baseball game. I had two players going into the game. He had none. I had Longoria, and then I had one other who I'll get to in a moment. Anything that Longoria did positive, I would go ahead. And Longoria got one hit and one run batted in. So I took a 2-point lead, and I was like, oh, this is great. This is over. David Price has a 5-run lead. There's no reason for the Tigers to do anything kooky here, etc. And sure enough, for some reason, Brad Ausmus brings in Joe Nathan. And I have Joe Nathan in my bullpen still, much to the chagrin probably of people that are listening that are saying, why am I listening to a guy who has Joe Nathan in his bullpen? But anyway... my quick calculation is, all right, the only way that I lose is if Joe Nathan gives up, I think it was more than 5 hits plus walks plus runs before he gets 3 outs. And sure enough, Joe Nathan starts to implode. I think he allowed 2 or 3 hits in a row, and he allowed a run. And I'm sitting there in the back of the research department in a 7-2 game with, like, everyone just kind of very casually sitting there screaming at the TV because Joe Nathan can't get an out in a 5-run game, down 5 runs at 11 o'clock at night on Sunday night to potentially cost me my league. But he got through it, and I got the win. Hooray.
Hey, I lost a league championship to Tristan in 2005. Because for some reason, Mike Timlin came in to get the final out of a 10-1 win on the last day of the season. It was October 2nd, and Tony Womack got a single. Tony Womack was terrible that year. He had like a 270 on base, and it was a 10-1 game. Timlin was the closer, but Francona just wanted him on the mound for the last out, and instead he gives up a single to Womack. That was enough to make me lose a spot in WHIP in a 20-team mixed league with a lot on the line. And Tristan won because of that, or I lost it. So, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, yes. And people can tell me I'm insane for hanging on to Joe Nathan, but yet I still have faith, blind faith.
Joe Nathan has a lot of saves.
He does.
He's going to get a lot more.
He's the opportunity guy at this point.
Well, that's a great story there. Now, I know that you pay attention to baseball probably more than anyone else that I know. Obviously working in stats and info, and that translates to fantasy pretty well. So I want your opinion on a lot of players who have been doing something lately. I think you have a list here, but like Manny Machado had a 5-hit game the other day. J.D. Martinez is hitting cleanup for Detroit. Just run through some players here, and we'll see where it leads.
Yeah, so what happened was, if you remember last week, we tried to go through like 10 guys in 60 seconds or whatever it was based on Twitter questions. So I have a list in front of me. I will try to do it again. We will see how successful I am with that. A lot of people wrote in, so we weren't able to satisfy everyone, but we're going to try. All right, J.D. Martinez. I'm a little nervous about him because he's never done anything quite like this before. Manny Machado has a hard hit rate that's better than his hard hit rate last year. I'm of the belief that he's going to be much better. Mike Morse, I would say he's normalizing to what he should have been in the first place. The home runs at the start of the season and all the numbers that he put up then kind of overstated his value a little bit. Lucas Duda is starting to come into his own. His hard hit rate and his batting average are starting to catch up to each other. He's actually looking like a legit player. If I had the choice between David Ortiz and Freddie Freeman for the rest of the season, I would take Freddie Freeman. Shelby Miller makes me nervous because his hard hit rate has been very high consistently all season. If I had to take G, Wheeler, or Neese, which one of the three would I take? I would take Zach Wheeler because I feel like he's got some big-time starts left in him this season. How's Matt Adams doing against the shift? He's hitting .333 against it. Now he's hitting really well, and he's starting to hit for power as well, and he's hitting a consistent .320. I like what I've seen from him, and if I had to take Zach Cozart, I would only take him in a defense-only league. That's what I got.
Thanks for listening to today's Fantasy Focus Baseball podcast.
That's a lot of stuff.
Was that all right? Someone actually asked, what should I do with Zach Cozart?
Let him go. I mean, he's
a great player in a defense-only league. 15 defensive runs saved.
Man, now, you and I are in that defense-only league, and I am getting torched because my right fielder is like a -14.
Is it Torrey Hunter, Norchika,
David Murphy. David Murphy, who was really good last year in left field. He was like a +8. He was among the defensive runs
translate
leaders.
As well, right? Apparently.
No, apparently not. So I wasn't going to win anyway.
Because you got the high fences. If you can't play those, you could be in trouble.
I would have finished in the middle of the pack. I mean, it's July 9th, and I'm already talking. But I mean, the guy who's winning has Jason Hayward, who's like a +20 already in right field, and there's no reason to think he's going to stop.
He's been fantastic. I think people are wishing that the offense would catch up with that a little bit.
Well, he stole 2 bases yesterday, so hopefully that's the start of something good there.
Yep.
Everybody should be following Mark on Twitter, MSimonESPN, and I'm, of course, Karabell ESPN, and you tweet out these heat maps from time to time.
Yep.
And I find them very interesting. Briefly explain what a heat map is and how a fantasy owner can gauge information from that to make decisions.
All right. Heat map is a visual image of a player's performance. It's kind of like a weather map. It's very similar to like the radar if you were looking to see what the degree of rain was in your area, where there's red coloring when a player is hot in a certain area and blue coloring when a player is cold in a certain area. And they're interesting because you get some neat combinations. You see things like players who can really hit, like Pablo Sandoval's is fascinating because he has all these hits on pitches out of the strike zone, so his heat map looks unlike just about any other players out there. I guess the fantasy use for that would be if you really know a player and you know what you're looking for. If he has a good history of doing something, like if he has a really good history of hitting the inside pitch, and for whatever reason he's been poor at that for a month, you can consider whether or not that's a fluke or whether maybe he has an injury or whether there is something wrong with him otherwise. I would say that's kind of the best example. I guess the same would be true for pitchers to an extent. If you knew that, like, I guess Mariano Rivera is the classic example. If his cutter, for whatever reason, wasn't locating the same way that it historically locates, that might be an indicator that you might want to consider doing something with him. Of course, Mariano Rivera is not playing, but I think you get the point.
Well, when you tweet out your lists of which pitchers are giving up hard hit contact most often, I look closely at that because if a guy's giving up a lot of hard hit contact, I don't want him anywhere near my team.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I do, and that was what I was getting at with someone like Shelby Miller. And actually, you can kind of get back to this with what happened yesterday with Tanaka. A lot of people think that it's weird that on these lists that I tweet out, where you tweet out the leaders of who gives up hard hit contact the most often, that Masahiro Tanaka is on the list of guys who allows hard hit balls, as opposed to being on the list of guys who don't. And I don't think it's that unusual. If you've watched him pitch throughout the season, when he gets hit, he does get hit fairly hard because his slider isn't necessarily biting as effectively as it should. A splitter hangs up in the strike zone, and a guy crushes it. And I think you saw that last night. He hasn't been as effective with two strikes. Justin Havens actually did a good write-up on that, who researches baseball tonight. He wasn't as effective with two strikes. The slider and the cutter weren't as effective as they usually are, and he gave up a bunch of hard-hit balls, and that's not that uncommon for him. I would be a little nervous, but he was never going to be that good, I think, to begin with. I think it was unfair to expect that he was going to continue this for the entire season.
Oh, so you'd be selling on Tanaka?
I won't be selling. I would be more skittish probably than the average person.
Because he pitched yesterday, and he didn't pitch all that well against Cleveland.
Right. That's what I'm getting at. But Trevor Bauer pitched much better than he did, I thought.
Trevor Bauer, who had a slow start in that game.
Yeah, he did. But in the second through 6th, 7th inning, he looked completely different. Like the tweets in the first inning were on him were, I can't stand watching this guy. He was a much better pitcher in the latter part of that game.
Well, yeah, I mean, Tanaka into the 5th inning, the Yankees were up 3-1. Tanaka was just giving up a lot of hits, a lot of hard hit balls. Mm-hmm. ERA of 2.51. I still think it's going to rise. Yep. I mean, I think Felix Hernandez is going to win the Cy Young or Sale. But it's still a great story. I'm not really investing in Bauer yet. I want to see... You know what he never does? He never has this 7-inning 1-run or 0-run game. Every game he gives up 3 runs or 4 runs.
He walks guys. He runs into... He always has an inning where he runs into trouble, like he did in the first inning yesterday.
What's I know we're going to talk Mets. Jake deGrom. Yep. I mean, that's 11 strikeouts and nary a walk. That's pretty impressive. Does he... Now, you were talking about him back in April. Yeah. You didn't expect this, though, right?
Well, it was the Braves, and I think you have to take into consideration that any time the Braves face a guy who throws 94-95, that an 11 strikeout game can happen. It actually was his second. I like what I've seen from him, and the ERA and FIP now for him are basically, I think, a match. They were going into last night. I think he's like a 3.6, 3.7 ERA guy, which maybe doesn't have as much value as it did 2 years ago. But I liked what I saw. He does, and I think this was true yesterday, and I think it's been true throughout. He throws a decent number of pitches because he records a lot of strikeouts, and he does wear down a bit at the end of games. I thought they were smart to pull him when they did last night, 7 innings. I think it was 108 pitches. The last couple of innings, he was fortunate. He got a couple of really nice defensive plays behind him to keep the shutout intact. I would say, take him. I like what I see from him. He has a fairly fresh arm, too, because he didn't pitch a lot at the Scholastic level, and he has a good mix of pitches. And I was actually wrong on this, but I thought he got helped a little bit by the umpire last night because he got some very low strikes called in his favor. And if you've got that in combination with facing the Atlanta Braves, who strike out a ton, you're going to have a good night.
I wouldn't worry too much about Julio Teheran. It seemed like one of those nights. But I'll tell you one more thing about the Mets. I never would have invested in Curtis Granderson. I just wouldn't have.
Yeah, we talked about that at the start of the season, where I was on the attack against him.
Well, over the last 30 days, somehow this guy, 278, 400 on base, 998 OPS with 8 home runs. He has more walks than strikeouts over the last 30 days. I never, ever would have predicted that.
If you go back to April 29th, this was as of yesterday, he ranked 7th in the National League in OPS since April 29th, and the 6 guys ahead of him were all All-Stars. He has been very good. It has coincided with him moving up to the top spot in the order, partly. It has coincided, and I think the thing that you would like best if you saw him the last 2 games was that he hooked pitches on the outer half, and I guess this kind of gets back to the heat map thing. He hooked pitches on the outer half over the right field fence for home runs. If you remember when Curtis Granderson was a Yankee, if you go back to 2011 and 2012, when he was at his best, that's what he was doing. He had 59 home runs of his 84 with the Yankees, in which he hooked took straight away an outer half pitch. Kevin Long worked with him on that for a good period of time. It really increased his power. I was as soon as I saw those 2 home runs, particularly the one that tied the game in the 8th inning 2 days ago, I was like, wow, that's a good sign. I don't know that he's going to hit 270, 280 because he strikes out so much, but he seems to be in a pretty good groove right now, and I would try and ride it out.
When you're evaluating relief pitchers, Mark, are you more concerned about home runs allowed or walks allowed?
I think walks allowed scare me for just about anyone. I would be concerned with the reliever who can't find the plate. Home runs can sometimes be a product of the ballpark that you're in, but walks are going to be a product of how effective you are and how much hitters are buying into the idea that how much you're fooling hitters, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And if there are a lot of relievers that make their living on fooling hitters, and if you're walking guys and guys are not chasing against you, that's more of a red flag. Who are you asking about?
Well, last week Sergio Romo lost his closer role because he's allowed a lot of home runs, all off his slider to lefties pretty much. And then last night Addison Reed allowed his 9th home run of the season. We're not even at the All-Star break. I mean, for any closer, any reliever to give up even double-digit home runs in an entire season is awful.
Yeah.
And especially when there's other options that are frankly better. And Brad Ziegler is better. He gets lefties out now. I can't fathom why Addison Reed is still closing for that team. Maybe they're just not paying attention.
Yeah, I'd rather have, I think I said this to someone last week, that I think that the ball is going to roll back to Sergio Romo at some point. Because he was doing all right. He was doing pretty well, actually, until he hit like this month-long blip. Maybe it was 3 weeks, whatever it was, where he gave up all those home runs. And I don't know if he's hurt. If he's hurt, then I would take that back. But I would be more skittish on Reed than I would with Sergio Romo, just because of the ballpark factor. I would rather have the closer in San Francisco than the closer in Arizona who gives up home runs. If you give up home runs, if you're a closer in Arizona who gives up home runs, you're going to give up 15 home runs.
Man, that's a lot of home runs. I mean,
that is. That was an impressive moment. Marcell Ozuna was the one who took Addison Reed deep. He hit it to dead center with 2 out and 2 strikes in the 9th inning. That's a guy I like, by the way. Marcell Ozuna was on my list for rapid fire, and I didn't get to it. But
yeah, I like Ozuna, too. And
he's a little scary because he strikes out so much and walks so little, but I think he has 20 to 25 home run power.
I think, he's already at 15.
Yep.
95 strikeouts and 24 walks is definitely a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But over the last 30 days, batting .287, 4 home runs. He's not a runner, but he's legit. And a lot of people before this season expected Jake Marisnick to be their center fielder and not Ozuna, and that was a mistake.
The nice thing about him is he can play multiple outfield positions, which would lead me to believe that he'll see more time.
I would agree with that.
He's a good buy in defense-only leagues, too.
Why didn't we do that league? Remember that league we did where we each picked a player from a team or 3 players from a team and we added up their WAR?
I did that with a couple of people this year. We should have done it.
Well, okay, we'll do it again
next year. It'll be the new hot thing.
It's fun. It's something to watch. Now that I'm out of the defense league already, so we all are. And then last thing, Colton Wong, 2 home runs in 3 games since coming off the disabled list. Looks healthy to me. Looks like he should be leading off or batting second with Matt Carpenter. That'd be a nice top of the order for the Cardinals. Yeah,
his swing looked pretty good. I would feel better about him. He hadn't done anything all season that merited you saying, boy, I would play him. I don't know if I would play him yet. I would give him a couple of weeks and see what he's got before I would say, wow, he's legit.
By the way, kids, the 10th annual SB Day Auction and Sweepstakes with 260 items and experiences available. There's something for everyone. Just go to ESPNRadio.com for a link to the eBay auction. The SB Day Sweepstakes features a Super Bowl 49 trip of a lifetime, and you can enter with a $20 donation. One of the items you can bid on for the SB Day auction is participating in a fantasy football draft at Watkins Glen Speedway with Dale Earnhardt Jr., other NASCAR drivers, and our own Matthew Berry. SB Day benefiting the V Foundation for Cancer Research, where 100% of straight donations and net proceeds go to cancer research and related programs. Check it out now at ESPNRadio.com.
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
Major League Baseball.
The Boston Red Sox have won the World Series.
The new college football playoff.
The Seminoles have completed the perfect season.
You're home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
Now we're going to hear Tristan sing. La la la!
Daily Notes.
He's a weird one. Okay, so now we're looking at today's schedule and some pitchers that we like and don't like so much for spot starts, and then we'll do the home runs as well. ESPN at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight, the Pittsburgh Pirates at the St. Louis Cardinals. It's Brandon Compton, who I do not recommend, against Lance Lynn, who I do. But Lynn's owned in all leagues at this point. Your boy Dylan G is off the DL pitching against Atlanta, against Irvin Santana. Santana's season has really taken a turn. He was really good in April, and he's been really bad since. I'd much rather have G here, and G's available in like 80% of ESPN leagues. You think he's going to continue to pitch this well?
Yeah, the caution on G is he's on like a 90 pitch count today, I think, 90 to 95, although the Mets have been known to go over those before. So for today, it would take the wait and see. The thing that always worries me about him is that he has a little bit of an injury history. When he is right and is able to make 13, 14 starts in a row, he's pretty good. And he's particularly good against the Braves and the Nationals. He has a good history against the NL East. I guess I would say I feel better about him than Neese, and feel not as confident about him as Wheeler, because I think that came up in the rapid fire. I like him. He's not going to blow you away, but he's a good. Like, I guess in what you guys in deep leagues, he's a worth. Yeah, I would say take a shot on him for the rest of the year.
What are you doing with Brandon McCarthy? He makes his Yankee debut at Cleveland today against Tomlin, Josh Tomlin. Sometimes I look at Tomlin, I think Randy Tomlin. Remember the Pirates?
Yes, he was undefeated against the Mets, as a matter of fact. Boy, this show has serious New York bias to it.
Well, we're going to keep doing it. McCarthy. What do you think of McCarthy? Because there's a guy with a huge difference, one of the biggest differences in baseball right now between actual ERA and xFIP. I think his xFIP was 289 and his ERA was over 5 last I looked. So I think he'll get better, but also going from the National League to the American League East isn't exactly a plus. And all these ground balls that get hit to Derek Jeter is not going to be good.
I would pitch him tonight because he's in Cleveland, and I would feel better about pitching him there than in Yankee Stadium. He's giving up home runs at a very high rate. This is an interesting one because the FIP ERA thing is going up against the hard hit ball thing. Like, he's given up a lot of hard hit balls this year, including all those home runs. So it's almost like, I guess if you're in a weekly, play him when he's in bigger parks, when he's not a Yankee. I would say avoid him when he's at Yankee Stadium, basically, until proven otherwise. That's kind of a weird way to use someone.
Have you been able to see Ruby De La Rosa, the young Red Sox guy?
I have not.
He's pitching today against Chris Sale. And normally on this show, Tristan would avoid people like this because Chris Sale is really, really good. Boston can't hit. I mean, there's a no-hit opportunity literally here for Chris Sale, right? I mean, the way the Red Sox are hitting the ball. So you wouldn't want to use De La Rosa here. But I still think he's a guy you want to invest in overall. And there's a lot of trade talk about Jake Peavy. That the Red Sox want to move him as fast as possible, maybe the Cardinals or the Dodgers with Beckett on the DL. I think De La Rosa is a guy you invest in, but you wouldn't use him today in this situation. Your cousin, Alfredo Simon, pitching for the Reds today.
Simon.
You know what? He keeps changing his mind.
He said that it was Simon at last check.
Well, I looked at the pronunciation in the Bill James guide, and it said Simon, so I know what Alfredo says, but... it's hard to believe he's having this type of season. But when we talk about difference in ERA and xFIP, he's the opposite of McCarthy. I mean, Alfredo Simon should not have an ERA this good.
Yeah, and his hard hit rate was high too. I think at last check. Hang on, I want to take another look at that. But he's someone that I've said kind of all season that boy, I think he's going to fade. But he's defied it so far. I'm wondering if that changes in the second half. I'm thinking like Jair Jurgens is a good example of that, where it just kept lasting and lasting and lasting. Then the All-Star break hit, and then in the second half, he was not the same pitcher at all. His hard hit rate is 16%. Okay, so it's a little lower than I thought it was.
I'm scared. I would sell.
I'm a little skittish with him.
Yeah, I mean, ERA 278, but FIP is 436.
Well, the batting average on balls in play. So all right, this is an interesting one. This is one where like stats are fighting against each other too. His BABIP this season is 235, which is insane. 235 is ridiculous. But the Reds have like one of the best. I think they're second in the majors in defensive runs saved. They have really good defense behind him. I think they're positive in 8 positions, or 7 of the 8 positions. The only one they're not, I think, is right field, and they just took Jake Bruce out of there anyway. So that's I don't know. I would lean avoid on him, but every year there are outliers. Maybe he's this year's.
There are only, according to Fangraphs, there's only 5 pitchers with a BABIP against a better than 250, which normally would tell you they've been really lucky and you want to sell. Chris Young of the Mariners, who pitched last night and did not win. Johnny Cueto's having an amazing year. Simone, Josh Beckett, and Anibal Sanchez. Now, Sanchez is good enough anyway, but his K rate's really down, so he's been fortunate. Wainwright's on this list, Kashmir, Home Run King Estrada, the Brewers. Whenever I see a BABIP this low, it doesn't have to normalize. Somebody could keep it at 250 all year, but I mean, it's just you want to think about selling on these guys. I mean, Chris Young has a ground ball percentage of 23.5. There's no way he's keeping his ERA.
Though. Don't pitch him on the road, I guess.
His ERA is 3.08 and his xFIP is 5.32.
Yeah, don't pitch him on the road. Pitch him when he's in Seattle.
I would agree with that. Okay, so we talked about some pitchers, and by the way, you mentioned Jurgens. Season debut for Colorado at home.
There he is.
How can that be?
Let's see. I'll give you one that I think I like. I don't have an umpire pick this week. Every guy that I looked at that I was thinking, this guy's going to be all right, was going against a rookie umpire. Matt Cain, I think, is going with a rookie ump. Brandon McCarthy has a rookie ump. There might have been 1 or 2 others. I would say I like Jason Hamill today, just because the A's are rolling really well. He has a 3 career ERA against the Giants and 8 starts against them. And I would feel pretty good about the way things are going, especially tried to maybe match what Samardzija did the other day.
Yeah, this is his debut for Oakland,
yep.
And it's against Matt Cain, who's been a little iffy.
Can I give you one prospect guy for this week, since we keep I'm admittedly biased towards the New York guys, but I feel like I can give a good kind of recommendation on this one.
Sure.
So I went to the Rockets the other day, and we had probably the worst rainstorm in the history of Connecticut. At least my history of Connecticut, that lasted about 20 minutes and killed the second game. But in the first game, I saw Dilson Herrera. I would say file this name away and just keep it on your list for next season when you're in your draft, and it's the very end of the minor league phase, and you have the opportunity to get someone. Dilson Herrera is a AA prospect for the Mets. He's 20 years old. He's currently hitting .312 with a .424 slug. He has 5 home runs, 16 stolen bases. And again, remember that he's only 20. He's the guy that they got in the Pirates in the Marlon Byrd trade. The opportunity may be there for him sooner rather than later because he can play both second base and shortstop. The Mets could have a need at shortstop because Ruben Tejada has been very inconsistent, and they could have a need at second base because next year in salary arbitration, Daniel Murphy is likely to command somewhere in the neighborhood of $9 million, creating an opportunity for someone at second base where the opportunity might not have been there. So I would say Dilson Herrera, if you are filing names away for next season. He has been a good one at every level that he has been at. I saw him hit a home run. He looked like he had a very quick bat. And the opportunity may be there.
No, that's a good pick. And I actually think that somebody in one of my leagues actually picked up Rob Refsnyder, the Yankees second baseman, just because you talked about him last week's show.
All right, so here's the update on him, too. They called up Zealous Wheeler. Brian Cashman said they wanted to give Wheeler a shot before they went to the idea of going to Refsnyder. Zealous Wheeler has looked really good in this first week so far. So now they've got Refsnyder back playing right field at AAA, or they're going to have him play right field with the idea that he may get called up as an outfielder rather than a second baseman, but with the knowledge that he could play both if needed.
Okay, fair enough.
The other thing is Brian Roberts has started to hit.
Right, but there's been talk of Refsnyder perhaps playing right field.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So,
which, it's not so easy to just move players all around.
Yeah, but that's more his natural position, so I think he'll be all right.
He reminds me of Listella, a right-handed version of Listella, a guy who should walk more than he strikes out, not a lot of power, no speed, but he could matter.
There's a lot of on the bat, though. There are so many people that are saying, boy, this guy has a bat. That I think he will be an appealing player when he does get the opportunity.
Who do you think is going to hit a home run today?
All right, this is the unscientific version, because the scientific version last week clearly didn't work. I think I went 0 for 4, because we did, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But, if you do recall, I did tell people, I think I did, to start Matt Kemp on a day where he went 4 for 5. I was way wrong on a couple of the others. I was wrong on the pitcher umpire pick. Madison Bumgarner got rocked for the first time with, who was it, Ron Kulpa. Home run pick for today. All right. Can you go first?
I can go first. I'm trying. When there's a day game, I like to pick the day game because it gets it out of the way early. Like I had Jay Bruce yesterday, and the game was.
Sweat it out.
Well, it's not that I'm sweating it out. It's just like I tend to forget, and by nighttime I don't even remember what I had. So I took Jay Bruce yesterday, even against the lefty in the first game, and he homered in his first at bat, which made me feel pretty good. And I'm going to take two guys today in the same game. And one is a more obvious pick than the other, but I want to start taking players that aren't as obvious for people that need help. So I'm going right to the Eric Stoltz matchup at Coors Field. This is a 10-9 game, Jurgens versus Eric Stoltz. Nolan Arenado's the obvious one. He's hitting. I think he's going to be good. How about DJ LeMahieu, who doesn't hit for power, but I see ugliness for Eric Stoltz today. Sorry, Eric. So I'm those are my guys. If you know, for the standings, if you need a guy, be Arenado. But I would definitely play DJ LeMahieu today. I think he's going to start at second base. I think he's going to do something good. And, that's a guy. And he has no power, so it's not obvious at all.
All right. No, shoot. My guy is obvious, so I got to.
You don't have. You can pick an obvious. Stefania takes Jose Abreu every day.
That's all right,
true.
Let's see. Let's go unobvious. Let's go. I think I have a good one. Let me just make sure that he's unobvious.
Jay, you have somebody?
My guy is Carlos Gomez today.
Against the Phillies and Roberto Hernandez. Against Fausto. Okay, that's fair.
All right, I am going to pick someone going up against a flamethrower, which worries me a little bit, but I will roll the dice just for the heck of it. I will roll the dice on Desmond Jennings against Yordano Ventura.
Okay. That's legitimate.
Desmond Jennings this season, hang on, I'm looking at his history against 94 mile an hour pitches this season. Well, it's not good. He doesn't have a home run. He doesn't have a home run against them, so maybe he'll get one. But last year he had 3. Year before that he had 2. So I will put my stake in Desmond Jennings.
You know, I'm looking at McCarthy against Indians. 213 batting average, current Indians. Michael Brantley 0 for 7 against them. Chisenhall 0 for 3. I mean, not a lot of at-bats here. But Jason Kipnis is starting to get hot. I wrote about him today in my blog. I think if you own Kipnis, you're using him anyway. So I wouldn't think about it. But Nick Swisher, 4 for 11 lifetime against McCarthy with 2 home runs. So if you have Swisher on your bench, today's actually a good day to use Nick Swisher. He looked
good yesterday, too. I think he has a little extra incentive going up against the Yankees.
I would say so. All right, let's get an email question or two.
All right, here we go.
Fantasy Focus at ESPNRadio.com.
If you need anything else, let me know.
Fantasy Focus at ESPNRadio.com.
This guy calls himself longtime listener Say Joderberg. What does that mean? Is this a friend of yours?
I know him pretty well, but he's a longtime listener for sure.
Longtime listener, okay. 12-team Roto League with a bunch of British fans of American sports. It's carnage. But I've got a deal on the table. I need speed and average and lead in most of the pitching categories. I've been offered the following deal after some negotiations. I give up Johnny Cueto. I get Charlie Blackmon and Josh Harrison. Not exactly the deal I was hoping for, but should I pull the trigger anyways? I feel confident I can make up the loss of strikeouts with streaming options. Thanks for the help. Now, the first thing to note here is it doesn't matter if a trade is fair. If it helps you win, that's the only thing that matters. And Cueto is an obvious sell-high guy based on durability. Now, you like Josh Harrison,
yep.
Right? I mean, what do you like about it?
I like, we keep coming back to this, I like his hard hit rate. He was in the top 15 in all baseball for hard hit rate this year. He's versatile. You can stick him at any number of positions. I think that the power numbers will go up for him. I would feel good about him. I like that he made the All-Star team, too.
Why?
Why?
Why is he an all-star and Buster Posey is not?
They stick utility guys in there. They have the utility role, and he fits the utility role.
Okay.
It's not his fault that there's a utility role.
No, it's not.
Charlie Blackmon, I'm kind of down on. He got off to this ridiculous start, and it was way more than anything you could have possibly hoped for from him. And he's been a very ordinary player since. Why is Charlie Blackmon depriving Buster Posey of a spot?
Same thing. I don't like it. I mean, Blackmon batting .264 with a 710 OPS over the last 30 days. He does have 4 steals in that span, and he could end up with 25 steals and 20 home runs. But he's not the player most people think he is. I mean, since May, he really hasn't been very good. So, yeah, not exactly the deal I would hope for either from our friend Sage Oderberg. I wouldn't do it. I'd try to get better than Nat for Cueto. But if that's the best you can do, I mean, there's value there. One more. Kevin in San Francisco. Since moving to the leadoff spot in late June, B.J. Upton's hitting .279 with 4 steals, a homer, 11 runs. He's top 100 on the player rater in that span. Yes, it's a small sample, and yes, he still strikes out a bunch, but it seems like something is starting to click. I assume you've seen a little bit of Upton.
I've never been a fan of his, as we know.
I don't think anything's clicking.
It looked like it was a hit a game for him. If you like a hit a game for your hitting streaks, like Jimmy Rollins had one of those, I think.
Yeah, like a 15-gamer with 1 hit per game.
He had 3 yesterday. He had 3 hits yesterday. He still strikes out way too much for my taste, and I don't think he's ever going to hit higher than 230.
I don't think he's even going to get there. I mean, 110 strikeouts.
Yep.
I mean, that's...
1 every 3 at bats.
It's unfathomable to me that he still leads off. I mean, he can run a little. He doesn't even run like he used to, but he leads the major leagues in strikeouts. Wow, you know who's tied for second? I wouldn't have guessed this because he wasn't up in early April. But George Springer is tied for. He's 1 strikeout off the big league lead.
Yeah,
and a lot less at bats.
I think that's something that scares people. That was an article the other day. Where was it? I want to say it might have been it was an Insider. I think it was a Mike Petriello Insider piece.
But he gets on base, 342 on base, and he has 18 home runs.
Guys that strike out as much as he does, there's a little fear factor there.
There's a definite fear factor there. I wouldn't go anywhere near B.J. Upton, because I don't think he's going to steal as many I mean, he has 15 steals. I suppose he could steal 25 or 30, but, man, it comes at a price because he does not walk. And that batting average, that's a killer batting average.
Yep.
I would avoid it. All right, so what are you working on this week? Tell us what you're writing about.
Sure. Let's see. Well, in the last week, if you like baseball, let's see. I've written about J.D. Martinez, Brian Roberts, Josh Harrison's an upcoming one. I'm hoping to actually talk to him today, which I'm looking forward to. I wrote about Granderson the other day. Yesterday we wrote on the Stats and Info blog into today. We wrote about Colton Wong. So lots of projects. I'll give one plug. Our friend Katie Sharp wrote a piece, a good one, for the It's About the Money Sweet Spot blog, the Yankee blog, on Brett Gardner's recent power surge, which might have interest to some fantasy people. And the other thing I'm writing about is all the ways that the Mets have lost. But now they're winning.
Now they're winning. Hey, look, I feel you. One of our teams is finishing in last place.
By the way, I was looking at the one-on-one league thingy that we do that we were talking about before. You know who my Philly pick was? Dominic Brown.
Man, he's terrible. and if you own Brown in an NL-only league, I'm telling you, Grady Sizemore is going to replace him by this weekend.
I have on that team. I have Dominic Brown, Joe Nathan, and Jim Johnson.
Oh my God. I wish I had played you.
And Matt Wieters.
Who's not going to help anybody at all for the rest of this year. Now, you do punters in a punter fantasy league.
All right. Let's talk about that. I don't do a punter fantasy league. But
you want to.
I wanted to end on that note. People wrote in with football questions. What are you doing, people? It's July. This is a baseball show.
You have no idea. Trust me.
Someone wrote in asking us to evaluate, when we were evaluating people, asked us to evaluate like 12 different football players. My NFL knowledge is not up to snuff, but as people who follow me know, I like punters, I like punter stats, and I was just thinking, to end the show, funny note, how would we do a punter fantasy league if we were going to do a punter fantasy league?
Well, there's stats. I mean,
Right, you do like inside 20, net,
regular yards and net. Maybe one of them could be like a negative category there.
Like blocks.
Total punts. I mean, you could pick a guy on a bad team.
Right, okay. So it'd be like, would it be a points league or would it be a standard roto?
I think you'd have like a 6-category roto. I'll play. You want to put it together? I'll play.
Me, you, and Tristan with a punter fantasy. Who's your first pick?
I have no idea. I can't even think of who the punter on my team is.
Used to, like, in a punter fantasy league, you would have taken Shane Leckler first every year, but Shane Leckler was not as valuable punter-wise as he's been in the past. He seems to be wearing down. It's a new generation of punters. You know who it might be? It might be Brandon Fields of the Dolphins.
You know a lot about punters.
I do. It's kind of scary.
And I'm not really prepared to discuss them.
Neither am
I. But I can discuss, running backs and other stuff like that. We didn't do birthdays. It's Miguel Montero's birthday today. Willie Wilson, I assume that's the old Royals outfielder who struck out a lot in that World Series. Thank you. Bud Black's birthday today. I don't see a whole lot. Not a great day for birthdays. Wally Post, who hits for some power, right? All right, so that was a dud. There's no birthday. No great birthdays.
So Bud Black, is there a Padre that you would want to claim or watch out for? Or?
No. Right now, the Padres?
Literally, don't take a Padre?
I mean, Jed Jerko's going to come off the DL soon, but I don't know if that's a good thing. He was hitting 160. Is
it amazing to you how bad Yonder Alonso has been?
I'm amazed at all of them. I mean, Will Venable had 22 homers and 22 steals last year. Now he can't even play. They're not even using him.
He's hitting 192.
I mean, just not even running.
If you had to take a Padre on a buy now the rest of the season, who are you taking? Jesse Hahn?
Well, pitchers are different because they get to start at home. I mean, Despagne. I mean, Ian Kennedy is really good. I mean, among their hitters, I think I might invest in Chase Headley, and I think Jerko comes off the DL soon and gets better.
Yep.
But, I mean, I don't really want any of their outfielders right now. There's nobody coming up from the minors anytime soon. I don't want any of their first basemen. Everett Cabrera I'm not investing in. He's not healthy. So I guess I'm looking at Headley here, but I think Headley's going to be a Yankee in 2 weeks. I really do.
Or there was a Blue Jay rumor, too.
Or Toronto, and they can move Laurie to second. So you don't want a San Diego Padre hitter on your team.
I would think you would want, if Chase Headley was a Blue Jay or a Yankee, I would think you would want him a lot.
I would think that would change things quite a bit. We've seen him play.
By the way, you know whose birthday it is today?
No, I don't.
Dan Winans, David Campbell, Mike Bond, Ross Cubbin, Jeff Altieri.
Who were they?
Are those your Facebook friends?
Yes, they're Facebook friends.
And that's where we're going to stop. Mark Simon, thank you so much. Check out his fine work on the ESPN Stats and Info blog and also on Twitter where he really tweets some really good stuff here. The fantasy owners can glean information from at MSimon ESPN. He'll be back on a future show and hopefully weekly with us. Mark, thanks so much for joining us.
Sure.
All right, for Mark, for Jay, I'll be back tomorrow, I think, with Tristan. Have a great and awesome day.
Everything is awesome.
The theme song for the Fantasy Focus was created and performed by Eric Hutchinson. Check out more of his music at erichutchinson.com. Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Focus. For more great podcasts, log on to the iTunes Music Store or Pod Center at espnradio.com.
The next big thing, the next new kid, the next overnight sensation, the next rookie. One to watch. The next Hall of Famer. The next Intimidator. The next six-time. The next King. Next. Who's next? Let's find out. Names are made here. The NASCAR Nationwide Series at New Hampshire. Saturday at 3 Eastern on ESPN2.